Welcome. Today, we're discussing signs that a man doesn't love you anymore. This love puzzle can be tricky, and sometimes it's difficult to know if the pieces still connect. We're here to assist you understanding these subtle signs. With that said, we're going to explore 10 common signs that might suggest a change in feelings. So, let's dive in. The first sign is a significant decrease in communication. Communication is the backbone of every relationship, and when that dwindles, it's a red flag. Now, this doesn't mean he has to be a chatterbox 24/7. It's about the quality, frequency, and depth of the conversations. Remember those late-night talks when he couldn't wait to share his dreams, fears, and everyday anecdotes with you? And he was equally interested in hearing about your day, your thoughts, your aspirations. But now those moments seem to be fading. The long, meaningful conversations have been replaced by monosyllabic responses or complete silence. He doesn't ask how your day was anymore, nor does he share about his. These changes are subtle, but they speak volumes. When he stops sharing about his day or asking about yours, it's a sign. Second sign, he becomes less affectionate. Affection is the spice that keeps love flavorful and exciting. It's the warm, fuzzy feeling that sparks when he holds your hand, the comfort in his voice when he says your name, the softness in his eyes when he looks at you. But when love begins to fade, so does affection. You might find that the hugs aren't as tight, the kisses are fewer, and the sweet words are seldom heard. Let's consider this. Remember the time when a simple good night text used to be filled with heart emojis and sweet nothings? Now it's reduced to a plain, unadorned night. Or that time when he'd spontaneously pull you into a dance in the middle of the kitchen, but now he barely even touches you. These moments of affection, once abundant, now seem like rare gems. Affection is the language of love. If you notice a severe lack of affection, it could be a warning sign. Third sign, he avoids making future plans. This one can be a bit tricky because no one can predict the future. But when it comes to matters of the heart, we all have hopes and plans we'd like to share with our significant other. It's in those shared dreams where love often blooms. But when a man starts to withdraw from these conversations, it might be a sign that his love is waning. Imagine you're discussing a vacation for next summer, or maybe where you'd like to settle down eventually. If his responses are vague, non-committal, or he changes the subject altogether, he might be signaling a reluctance to commit to a shared future. This reluctance could stem from various reasons. Perhaps he's uncertain about his feelings, or maybe he's just not ready to make that level of commitment. Whatever the reason, it's a sign worth noting. When he shies away from planning for the future, take notice. Fourth sign, he shows a lack of interest in your life. Now, this is a significant one. When a man loves you, he's curious about your world. He wants to know about that book you're reading, the hobby you're passionate about, or the dreams you're chasing. He's eager to uncover the layers of your life. But when he stops asking questions, when he doesn't show curiosity about your day, your experiences, the things that make you tick, that's a sign. It might be subtle at first. A missed opportunity to ask about your day, a lack of enthusiasm about your successes. Maybe he no longer laughs at your jokes or doesn't remember your favorite movie. Remember, love is about connection, about sharing and understanding each other's worlds. If he's not interested in the details of your life, in the things that make you uniquely you, it's a glaring sign. It's like he's slowly pulling away from the shared journey you're on, and that's not a sign of enduring love. If he's not interested in your life, it's a clear sign. Fifth sign, he consistently prioritizes others over you. Now, this is a tough one. It's not about the occasional late night at work or a boys' night out. It's when these instances become a pattern, a norm, rather than an exception. Think of it this way. You've planned a quiet dinner at home, but he bails last minute for an impromptu work meeting. Or perhaps it's your anniversary, but he's too busy watching the game with his friends. His hobbies take up most of his time, leaving you waiting in the wings, like an afterthought. Remember, in healthy relationships, both partners prioritize each other, especially during important moments. If you're constantly being pushed down his list of priorities, it's an indication that his feelings for you may not be as strong as they once were. It's a clear sign that he's taking you for granted, and you deserve better. When you're not a priority, it's a significant sign. Sixth sign, he criticizes you constantly. When love is genuine, it sees past the flaws. But if you find that he's always pointing out your shortcomings, it's a sign he's losing his love for you. It could be anything, from the way you dress to how you express your thoughts. If he's finding fault in what you say, how you say it, or even when you say it, you're dealing with a man whose affection is waning. It's normal to have disagreements and to challenge each other constructively. But when criticism becomes the norm, rather than the exception, it's a sign that he's focusing more on your flaws than your strengths. This doesn't mean you should be perfect, but love is about acceptance, and constant criticism is far from it. Remember, nobody deserves to be in a relationship where they constantly feel inadequate. Constant criticism is a red flag. 7th sign, he avoids spending time with you. This one's a bit tricky because life can be hectic, and sometimes we all need a bit of me time. But if he's consistently finding reasons not to be around you, it might be a sign of something deeper. Perhaps he's suddenly taken up a new hobby that conveniently takes up all his free time. Or maybe his work hours have mysteriously extended into the evenings and weekends. He could even start hanging out more with his friends, leaving little to no room for quality time with you. It's like he's on a never-ending mission to escape, to be anywhere but with you. Kind of like how a cat avoids water, it's an instinctive reaction. And it's not about needing space or time alone, it's about avoiding you specifically. So, if you find that you're spending more time with your Netflix subscription than with him, it's time to take notice. Remember, relationships thrive on shared experiences. And if he's always absent, there's no room for shared experiences, is there? Avoidance is a loud sign. 8th sign, he doesn't fight with you anymore. This might sound like a blessing. After all, who wants a relationship full of arguments? However, it's not always a good sign. When two people are in love, they care enough to fight. They argue because they're invested in each other, in the relationship. They want to fix what's wrong, and sometimes that means having difficult conversations or even heated debates. But when a man stops fighting, it often means he's stopped caring. He's indifferent. You might notice that he doesn't react or engage when you bring up issues or disagreements. He might let you have your way without a word, not because he agrees, but because he just doesn't care enough to argue. It's as if he's pulled away, detached himself from the relationship. Consider this: if you're in a race and you stop pushing, it's because you're no longer interested in winning. The same applies here. When he doesn't bother to argue, it's a sign. It's a sign that he might have given up on the relationship, that he's no longer invested in its outcome. It's one of those subtle signs that a man doesn't love you anymore. When he doesn't bother to argue, it's a sign. 9th sign, he stops saying, "I love you." In the realm of relationships, these 3 potent words bear the weight of deep affection and commitment. When spoken genuinely, they can make hearts flutter and smiles broaden. But what happens when these words start to fade away? Let's consider this. You're sharing a quiet, intimate moment, maybe after dinner or before bedtime. The room is filled with a comfortable silence, and you're expecting those 3 words that used to punctuate such moments. But they never come. You wait, you hope, but the silence stretches on. The absence of "I love you" can be as loud and clear as any spoken words. But remember, it's not just about the frequency of these words, but also about the sincerity behind them. If he's saying "I love you" with a hollow voice, without the spark in his eyes that used to light up your world, it might be a sign that his feelings are waning. However, it's important not to jump to conclusions. There could be other reasons behind this change. Maybe he's going through a tough time, or he's just not as verbal about his feelings. But if this sign is accompanied by others on our list, it might be time to have a serious conversation. When "I love you" disappears, it's a clear sign. 10th sign, he cheats on you. Infidelity is a stark and painful indication that the love he once had for you has faded. When a man truly loves and respects a woman, he remains committed to her, and no other person can catch his eye. But when he starts seeking comfort and companionship elsewhere, it's a clear sign that his heart is no longer with you. Take, for example, John and Lisa. They were the perfect couple, deeply in love and inseparable. But as time passed, John started spending late nights at work, his phone was always on silent, and he was constantly guarded about his activities. Lisa had her suspicions, and they were confirmed when she found out about his affair. It was clear John's love for Lisa had evaporated, replaced by someone else. Cheating is not just about physical intimacy with someone else. It can also be emotional cheating, where he shares his innermost thoughts and feelings with another person, a role that should be yours. This is a betrayal of trust and an unmistakable sign that he doesn't love you anymore. Remember, if he truly loves you, he won't cheat, because love is about respect, trust, and loyalty. Cheating is the ultimate sign. So, those were the 10 signs that a man doesn't love you anymore. We've journeyed through the subtle shifts in communication, the lessening of affection, and the avoidance of future plans. We've discussed the lack of interest in your life, how he begins to prioritize others over you, and the sting of constant criticism. We've also touched upon the distancing, the lack of arguments, the absence of those three little words, "I love you," and the harsh reality of cheating. These signs, while subtle and often overlooked, can be the key indicators that his love for you has waned. However, it's important to remember that these signs are not absolute. Each relationship is unique, and what might be a red flag in one might be completely normal in another. If you do notice these signs, the best course of action is to have an open, honest conversation with your partner. Love is a two-way street after all. Thanks for watching, and please share and subscribe.